hospitality and accommodations, the retail sector is being really, really hard hit. We do understand that there was some generous programs that was given out by the various levels of government, including rent subsidies, wage subsidies, business loans, and the updated, I would say, the BDC program. Those are the big four engines where small business could easily tap into for cash flow methods. So I'll start with CEBA, which was a Canadian Emergency Business account. So this used to enable everyone to get $40,000, of which one of $10,000 is not is forgivable as long as you pay by December 31st, 2020. No one expected, I think, while many of us expected wave two to hit, no one expected the effect or how soon it will hit and at the gravity it's hitting. We thought we'd be in a better position as a society to manage wave two, but clearly wave two's numbers are starting to rival that of wave one or cause us more, start alarming us more, I would say, because now we have all these testing, we have all these, we have 6 months of data, and we're still not able to slow down this rate. So there has been expansion in all these programs. It was only, I believe, that was announced last Friday, and there are more details coming. So I know we've had some preliminary discussions in the Connecting GTA group about it. For example, CEBA, for all those who tapped into CEBA, there was two, at the very, very beginning, there was no audit process. It was the honor system where you check off a few boxes and the bank will fund you in a couple of days. Later, they changed that program. They made the requirements different for payroll, and you have to go through the EDC process where you have to submit your expenses, get verified, and then get funded. So what they've done now, so out of the 40, is they've expanded it to 60. So they've declared that they're going to now allow for another $20,000 of money to be given out on the CEBA accounts, of which only 10,000 of the new 20 is payable, and the remainder will be forgivable as long as you also meet the same deadline of December 31st, 2022. This is a huge update and something like a lot of our small businesses. So at my firm, not only do we do legal work, we do consulting and advisory work for business as well. So the number one question is, 40 was great. It let me pay my rent and keep some of my staff and my bills. But if I'm going to do this for another 5 months, 6 months in the winter term, I'm going to be bankrupt. So with this, it gives them a little more leeway to run with this. So what's happening is, my understanding is, in the background, I believe the feds are having discussions with the banks on how to implement the system. So that's why none of the banks have rolled out there's particulars on how this is going to be dispersed and implemented. I know with RBC, what they've said is on my business account, they've said that, there is this new program, it's coming out. We don't have the particulars, but as soon as we do, we'll push it out to you. So this is going to be coming down the pipeline, and I think you'll be able to access these funds before the end of the month, which will really give you some headway into November, December, January, and February. Traditionally, for a lot of businesses, even the restaurant space, these are traditionally slower months. And this will really help you. So that's one of the big programs right now. The other big program is the rent subsidy. So the commercial rent subsidy has been expanded. And with the rent subsidy now, you could go onto a rent subsidy if you qualify until June 2021. So now you've been given not only for the end of this year, but you've been given half of 2021 to use this rent subsidy to recover back into it. That makes it a huge difference. The thing that we don't know about this rent subsidy, which kind of worries me, and where I take a position not against it, but it alarms me, is if we want the interior, if we want this economy to recover, one of the key factors is you need to have a sliding scale in place there, where the rent subsidy, you could qualify for a rent subsidy, but you don't have to have the same amount of losses. And I think they're starting to do this. I don't think the details have been fleshed out yet on the rent subsidy component, but it should be that not only do you have to lose 75% of your revenue in order for you to qualify for this, or 60%. Um, to qualify for this, but I think as long as you show some sort of loss, if you could tap into some sort of rent subsidy, that tiered system will be much a better approach, because it it doesn't penalize someone for recovering faster than expected, and I think that is a key component of this. The next is also the wage subsidy. Likewise, now has been extended until June 2021, and and you would still get the same subsidy rate of 65% going forward. So now not only do you get extra cash flow with SEBA, technically you're going to get rent subsidy, but you're also going to get wage subsidy. So you could keep people on payroll, and you could keep trying to pivot. That's my second part of the presentation. Keep trying to pivot and positioning yourself for success in what the new world is going to be, because the world has changed. And so, and then the last part is for financial cash flow purposes is BDC. So BDC has really actively gotten engaged in this process. Prior to COVID, BDC for a lot of individuals has been a not very easily accessible. A lot of small business owners, what they'll do is they'll take the shirt off their back in order to fund their business. But what ends up happening is you become your debt ratio becomes too high, because you're servicing your business debt on your personal side. And as soon as BDC sees that, and your score won't be at a certain level, they decline you. What they're really doing now is the score requirement unofficially has become more lax. They are giving much more leeway on the applications. The application process is much smaller now. It's only a 2-page online form. The first form really is, the director's personal information and the organization's information. And the second form, it has some basic your financial information, and they're really taking that and really funding you. A lot of my clients, if, for example, if they're applying Monday, they're getting a call by Wednesday, Thursday of the same week, and by next Tuesday, Wednesday, they're getting up to 100,000 funded into their account. So it's giving them ammunition to not only stay afloat, but to really repivot and find or move into new spaces for them to work with. One of the other parts where BDC is really doing is they're actually allowing for, this is something new that's really come out. So if there's an owner with multiple businesses, they're actually allowing your multiple businesses to also access these funds. So you could potentially have 2 businesses who've gotten 100,000 from BDC. There are guarantees, and there is on the second one, there's a little bit more questioning. But the fact that you're not stuck with one and not having to hold is really, really good. So this is where what we found in my preliminary research of the different methods where the governments are giving you ammunition to repivot. The other ones, as the minister has said, is I did a presentation earlier with Digital Main Street from the City of Toronto. So, there's a Digital Main Street fund for small businesses to access in order to become on the web, or to develop a website and do this. And if you look at platform, and they partner with Shopify. If you also look at other platforms like Facebook, Facebook actually came out with this entire thing, I think, in the last their fiscal quarter, 2 fiscal quarters ago, saying we're going to allow for small business to have free shops on our platform, and we'll do the back end. And so if you want to have an e-commerce shop, you can actually run it off Facebook, and it's completely free as well. And they're giving you a lot of services. So I think if you start looking into some of these things, your business can become digitalized, because I think that's where we're going. My presentation is leading into, it's digitalization of every single business. It doesn't matter if it's accommodation, food, retail, service, you need to be able to digitalize your commodity. And that is my natural flow into my next part, which is going to be risk management. And I think as a small business owner, um, uh, my number one concern was cash flow. And once that's checked off, is second is survival. And for survival, what I tell all my clients, and I would like to tell all the participants here, is you need to have a plan with your core team. For a lot of us, the core team is just yourself. We don't have a disaster recovery team, or we don't have 4 or 5 people we can rely on. It's usually going to be us, maybe like a part, your life partner, or it could be your business partner. And you got to sit down and say, okay, what's my worst case scenario? What is the least I could do to keep my doors open? And you will have to make plans for that, and we'll go through that. What is an average thing where where we could somehow survive, or third is how could we thrive on this? Because as much as every industry is hurting, there are champions in every single industry. For food, for example, those who are able to pivot to online, pivot to takeout, diversify their offerings, diversify their brand, while what was able to come out of COVID a winner. For example, one of my clients has a Thai restaurant, and he has a little dining spot, and he does takeout. And when we were planning, what we realized is, like, your commercial kitchen, you have a commercial kitchen, you're not using it for 6 hours a day, for 5 days a week. So how could we monetize this dead time? So what we ended up doing is, on platforms like Uber Eats and Skip the Dish, what you could do is, out of a physical location, you could have multiple active restaurants on the platform. They don't need to have a physical space, but these businesses will be a digital business. So what he ended up doing was, in those mornings, if someone offered you a breakfast offering at a Thai place, it's probably not going to be the most appealing place for you when you're looking to get breakfast. You're not going to look at that place and say, this breakfast is going to look good. So what he did is opened a digital business with a breakfast shop, with a breakfast name, and uses his same commercial kitchen. Just got a new iPad and an Uber Eats account and a Skip the Dish account, and they'll provide the equipment for free. And he was able to pivot and use his dead time to monetize it. So that was a great way of a Thai restaurant pivoting where to use his dead time. Another thing he did was really start using Uber Eats and Skip the Dish as his competitive advantage. He knew, since he had a smaller footprint, that his running costs were lower. So he was able to sign up. At one point, when he got his 40K loan, we came up with strategies like, let's start taking this market share for your digital space and your digital restaurants. So, let's cut back on the costs. Let's give more free delivery options on Uber Eats, because that pops up higher. Let's get your takeout revenue. So at the end of this, he's actually a lot more profitable as a result of COVID than not. So there are champions in every single space that you need to look at. But that really starts with you looking at your business, what assets you already have, what employees you have, and how you could maximize and expand on this. Especially with the rent subsidy, the commercial rent subsidy, the wage subsidy, the rent subsidy, and the ammunition you're going to get from SEBA and BDC, you will be in a position in order to better yourself. So that was one example. In the retail space, setting up shops with either Amazon Marketplace, Digital Main Street, having Shopify or Facebook Plays really gives you a new market to get into. There's challenges with e-commerce because you do have some larger players who are well more established. But if you can find your niche, you're able to really prosper in this. So I think risk management comes down to identifying what is your rather one is that you have to identify what your weaknesses and still hold on to it and try to mitigate it. But you have to understand what are your assets. Everyone has assets. When you have a person where you could potentially employ for $3 or $4 an hour as a result of the rent's wage subsidy, or for $10 rather than $40 an hour, that's giving you a lot of competitive advantage to get into a lot of spaces. So we do. There is a lot of business that are affected, but we are trying to take a positive approach in this and say, look, let's sit down, let's analyze what you have, what you don't have, and how could we use this to better yourself? Is there a way we could pivot your business? A lot of places have started, prior to the shutdown, renting out their spaces, or they're using delivery as an avenue, because Uber and Skip the Dish takes 25 to 30% of your margin in order for you to and in getting a core area, and with your locals or their more common customers having a different set of offering, like a VIP offering, where if you call in the off thing, or you order off our website, not through Uber Eats, we're able to give you discounted prices, or we'll give you 20% more. For one of the restaurants and bars we work with, especially with like on Sunday nights, the restaurant bar business has gotten affected a lot, because prior to this, 95% of your revenue was from dine-in or patio, and both don't exist anymore. But one of the ways you could pivot yourself, and to do that is, while you were working on reopening your patio and thing, you could not have forgotten about your takeout business. You have to use the people who are dining in as a tool to develop your takeout business, because you still have the same commercial kitchen, you still have the same resources in place as a smaller footprinted place. But once you factor in your 65 or 75% wage subsidy and rent subsidy, the marginal difference in your operating costs compared to a small takeout place to a big place is not much. It'll be the difference of $1,000 to $2,000, because times it by 4, your rent is not $6,000 to $8,000 more in most places. So just because you have a large dining space, don't sell yourself short and saying I can't pivot. No, you can pivot. But one of the things we're offering is like, Sunday is NFL games. And right now with the sports leagues all in a mess and everyone having different schedules, how can you maximize a volume of food that you get out the door, and maximize order value? Like, for example, the ticket price of an order. How do you get the most out of that, and while pushing up a lot of foods? So one of the things we brainstormed, and we sat with our clients, is like, look, what kind of clients would you normally cater to? It's most of these individuals who are into sports or want to see the sports on a Saturday or Sunday. So what are the common foods they eat? They'll eat the quesadilla, the nachos, the wings, the fries, the onion rings. So you have a core menu. And now, how can you package this in an attractive manner for these individuals? Because what they want to do is grab a beer, get some wings, and just have a good time for a couple hours. Well, you can still provide the same experience, a food and drink experience, but just not in your place. So how can you take what we're offering, this atmosphere, and try to sell it to them in their own space? So one of the things we did is like, let's come up with a game day menu. So you can get so if you and your friends are together, you can have 3 pounds of wings, 2 pounds of 2 boxes of fries, and a 6-pack for a beer for X amount of dollars. And so your ticket price now is $60, $70, $80, $90, $100 an order. But when the people who are ordering are dividing by 4 or 5, it doesn't become much. And you know what? They'll be like, hey, not only do I get food, do I get a 6-pack of beer as well? Hey, let's go. Because, the alcohol, the part where alcohol delivery still has not been taken out yet. So, until that's alive, you could make attractive marketing offers. So a lot of this has to come to understanding what you are really providing to the clients. and then converting that to another space and having them in mind. Because now, if this is what you do on game day, it's I'm gonna order from this bar and grill. They're gonna give me all this food, all this booze. I'm good. I don't have to leave because I may have the first 6 beers in my house, but I don't want to drive after that. And if I have people over, so these menus will start helping out, and the ticket prices of your takeout orders have gone up. And now you could deliver yourself because there's enough margin for you. You're not selling it out on Uber Eats or Skip. You can do it through your website or your digital main street or your e-commerce platform, and you're able to pivot. Similar with retail, the only industry that's we're having a very, very hard time assisting right now, it is the travel and tourism industry because it's very hard to deliver the same experience. So, hopefully we're able to crack that nut as well. But what we're trying to do is sit down with every single person, really identify what they're doing, uh, make a plan for them, and also not only plan out COVID, it's COVID recovery and a plan to excellence. This is where we're going with this. This is how we think small businesses, should be preparing for the second wave, and potentially a third wave. Because if you've looked at the clinical trials, J&J pulled out, Eli Lilly pulled out, they stopped their testing. So now, since you're in phase 3 of clinical trials, is when you're actually having human interaction with the trials, and this is when you're going to get your failure points, not in phase 1 and 2. That's why phase 1 and 2 you're able to push so quickly, but in phase 3, phase 4 of these clinical trials is when you're really having the pushback. I tell all businesses, don't be a foolish optimistic. Like, be a positive person, but don't be foolish. There's a line for that, because you have to understand the fastest vaccine ever created by mankind was MERS in 2003, and that took 4 years to market. So even if we're saying, yes, our technology, our AI, our robotics has gotten so much better, are we saying we got 100% faster or 200%, 300% faster in order for us to do it in 1 year or 1.5 years? And what is the risk factor? Because you haven't tested for the long-term effects of these vaccines. So, I tell my clients, you better plan for wave 2 and you better plan for wave 3, because how are you going to adapt to these different markets? So that's one part of survival. My last part is opportunity component. There is a lot of people who are actually buying new businesses right now, be it in the retail space, be it in the restaurant space. The restaurant space is booming. I have, oh my God, I think 6 active files who are closing either this month or by the end of November for buying restaurants, because there is such a competitive advantage if you can plan it out well and target it well to do this space. So, for those who really want to look at an avenue, it's like in the stock market. You don't buy when the market's up 30% and everyone's running green. You want to buy low, and this is a great time for those individuals who are in a position to be able to buy in now, to come into the market, because you could get into a restaurant that you would probably not have to pay for $200,000. But because of the market and where you are, you may be able to get it for $100,000 and with an extended payment plan, so you don't even bleed cash flow. So there is there is hope at the end of the tunnel, but it really depends on how we position ourselves to do it. If we think, it goes back to, if we think that the world is dark and gloomy, the world will be dark and gloomy. If you think, hey, we could survive, we could thrive in this environment, you'll be able to survive. It goes to any industry. Even my law industry, at slow points, real estate was going down, but we pivoted quickly and we expanded our family law because all the parents didn't want to give access to their children to the other parent. We pivoted to wills and estates, really put a focus on that. And we were able to move into another area. And then when real estate and corporate came back, now we had a few blooming areas. So, every business can do it, except for the travel and tourism. I'm trying to figure something out, but otherwise, every business has an opportunity. You got to be ready for wave 2. You got to be ready for wave 3 if it hits, and wave 4, and your business has to be ready for it. So with that, I think my presentation is going to conclude for preparing for the second wave of Corona. Hopefully I've given you some insight on cash flow, risk management, and opportunities. And, we do think I think Suresh, and maybe other people, like, even though we're doing a lot of this consulting for our business, we've gotten to a point like where we just want to help people. We don't want them to lose their livelihood or their roofs over their head. So, you could reach out to us for help. Talk to us about your situation, and we could really assist you or try to assist your problem, come up with a creative solution for you. Because as much as we also like to make money, I think what really gets us going is the ability to crack this nut, this problem solving. The eureka moment. Haha! How about this? So I think you have resources with you, and I think we will be able to get through this together.
Thank you so much for that, Vithu. I just love the positivity that you bring during these times. I know everyone they have many challenges. We all do. It's really refreshing to know that you are also providing consulting and advisory services as well for business owners who may be lost. Sometimes people are not aware of information that is available. They don't know where to go for some of the information. You mentioned, a couple of big programs that are available, like the wage subsidy, the rent subsidy, BDC, in terms of what they're doing for businesses. Can you quickly highlight some of the guidelines or minimum expectations for businesses in order to qualify? Or is that too broad a question, and would you prefer to field them?
It'll depend on the program. So for example, for CEBA, it's gotten, originally it was for 40,000 payroll. Then they brought it to 20,000 payroll. Then they brought it down to, I believe it was $40,000 of fixed expenses, but with a business account. So they're using the same minimum threshold that they had in order to fund the extra 20. However, what we don't know is whether the extra 20 will be through the old process, like for the initial people who applied, where you just click on the bank's website and get funded, or you had to go through the EDC service where you have to submit it to the CEBA of your bank, and they approve or reject it. Then if they reject it, you have to get on the line with the CEBA hotline, which the average wait time now is 4 hours to get a hold of them. So we don't know that component yet, but that's for CEBA. With regards to the rents, for the rent subsidy, so you get a 65% rent subsidy if you had lost previously 75% of your revenues. What they're discussing now is, can we make this a sliding scale? So not to penalize people for recovering, because that would go against why you're doing these programs. At the same time, they're giving you another top up if you be mandated to shut down, for example, like Exmar in Toronto, or any of these restaurants in Toronto, Peel, potentially York Region today. They're giving you another 25% top up on your 65% rent subsidy. So you could probably potentially get to 80, 85, 90% rent subsidy. The particulars on that, I believe, will either be out today or next Friday, because they make these announcements. The pattern has been on Fridays. With regards to the wage subsidy, it is, they still say it's on eligible wages, but you get 65% of the wages discounted. However, hopefully they change the definition of what an eligible wage is, because now it's only if a business loses, I believe, 60 or 70% of your revenue can you apply for this. So really, again, does not help recovering businesses. With regards to BDC, my understanding, there's nothing. This is just like talk with several managers or like individuals in that circle. The former requirement is 700 credit score. BDC will not even look at your application without 700 credit score. Now they're saying, okay, 675-ish, and we're going. But now, since there's more funding available, they may be flexible on that as well. So they're getting easier to access, but that is the key. The negative in all of this, though, is even though the business side is getting stronger, like program wise, for us to survive, the mortgage deferral rate on our principal homes is gone. So without this, you know, uh, people who had all this cash flow and no mortgage to pay were really benefiting from this. But now, if you're getting 40,000 and now you got to start making your mortgage payments, uh, you're gonna have a hard time. Likewise, with the $40,000, what they didn't tell us at the beginning, what they told us halfway through, and they kind of snuck it in, is like, "Hey guys, you're using this $40,000. We're gonna come for an audit trail later." Because that's why they announced saying, okay, we're going to do the pre-audit and show us that you have fixed expenses of $40,000 or whatever, and then we'll send you the money. That's why they brought that out later. But for all the people who received it earlier, they're going to be having to do some sit downs with their accountants and saying, hey, where's the money trail going? Or how do I account for this? Another new nuance that came in last week or 2 weeks, for example, that will affect Azar and realtors, is realtors are able to make a personal corporation now. It's a hybrid corporation between sole proprietorship and a professional corporation. So with that, now if CEBA, if you're able to apply for CEBA until December 31st, you're allowed to apply for CEBA for the first 40 and then the additional top up when it's announced. Now, can they now apply for this extra 60,000, which makes which changes the scenario completely for the realtors. I don't have an answer for that question. That question is still developing, so we should have an answer for that in the next couple weeks. But imagine if you survived through this and you're a realtor and now you get a windfall of 60,000, you know, you're given a lot of ammo.
Okay. What we'll do now, in the essence of time, maybe open up the floor for some questions. If we have anybody on the line who has a specific question for Vithu, please go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question. Or if you'd like to type it into the chat box, that's another option. Go ahead, Azar, you have a question?
Thank you, Vidhu, for all the presentation and the ideas, and we appreciate you are doing the consultation. So one of the questions that all these different benefits you mentioned, is any way you can email, especially connecting GTA group to, as Doreen mentioned earlier, to go one by one to understand, and what your special fee for connecting GTA member business owners if they want to consult with you?
Okay, the two parts. So for the first part, for the access to information, what I'll do is I think I'll send all the details to Suresh and Doreen, and maybe they could put it up on the Connecting GTA website. So like cgta.ca/COVID-19, and then maybe that'll be like a database of all the info, so everyone could go there, get the links, and maybe we could work on keeping that up to date, so people could get live information as we get it. That'll be one part. With regards to the fee, I think I'll have to sit down with Suresh, and maybe we could come and put something together, like a package, because I know that's his space too. Like I come from a very legal and risk side of the, and a little bit of marketing side, but then he comes from he's got his ear to the ground a lot more, and he hears a lot more of your concerns than me. I only hear when my clients bring it up to me or have this discussion, but he hears it. So maybe we could do I know there's other members who have really good experience in this area. Maybe we could put together a little panel, and people could submit their issues to us, and then we could maybe give them a consult together as an organization, and that way you'll get maybe one shot to pick a few people's brains.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a good idea.
So yeah, so thanks, Azar. I think Suresh, let's put that, and Doreen, let's put that on
The website? Yeah,
Yeah, and for us to connect back on post this meeting,
sure.
and
We
then
can
we can
do
get
that. I think that would be very helpful.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Azar. Do we have anyone else on the call who would like to ask a question?
I wanted to know about the BDC loan that you referred to. Like, how do we get more information? Do we reach out to the account that we have, or like, is it posted somewhere?
Wait, I should dump the link into here for now.
Okay. Because I know many of our members are struggling to get that 100,000 loan, but
So it's here, and on this link there is they talk about two programs. One is SEBA.
Yeah.
There's no link to that. They just say contact your bank for it. The second one says BDC Small Business Loan, and it's up to 100,000. The only criteria for this loan, though, I gotta say, is your business has to be operating for 24 months. That is the only requirement. They used to be great credit history. Now it's good credit history. They don't tell you what the credit history requirement is, but now you're in the 675 range, and you'll be able to hit. You have to be 18 years old, and you have to be a Canadian business. Those are the 4 requirements, and do it. And the best part about the BDC is so once you get the money for the first 6 months, you don't pay no interest. It's deferred, and then after that, it's only at 2.89%, and it's a 5-year program, and there's a balloon at the end which you could re-amortize. So they made it really, really affordable. 2.89% on a commercial loan is unheard of.
perfect. Well,
That's
thank
great.
you so much.
Thank you.
If I
Is there anyone
could
else?
just add a few things. Good morning, everyone. This is Denton.
Hi,
Vitu,
Denton.
very good presentation. I like the details you actually put into the presentation and the guidance you've been providing. But I just wanted to comment on a couple of things. One, with the BCAP loan, I'll say for sure, yes, it does help for some businesses, right? But it's really not for everyone, right? I literally deal with this on a case by case basis with my existing clients, right? And the key criteria, as you mentioned, with that actual 2-year requirement, we have a lot of companies who would have started recently, but they have just not met that 24 months of financial statements being available. And having the financial statements available is one part of it, but then there's an actual assessment of the financials to see how much you can afford, right? And that too is another area where some businesses end up not meeting the criteria to be able to access that 100,000 there, right? So just to bear in mind that there is an assessment that goes behind it, and the specific risk mitigating criteria would have to be met in order to avail of those funding for the respective business. The second comment I'll make, of course, is that with regards to SEBA, and this is just for emphasis, and it's very important, the forgiveness of that 25% of the initial 40,000 is highly dependent on you utilizing the full amount of 40,000, right? And that 50% of the 20% that is to come, 20,000 rather, that is to come, it must be that you would have used up that full additional 20,000 to be able to get the 10,000, which is 50% forgiveness, right? So 2 pieces of information there that's important for business owners to keep in mind. It's not okay. It's not going to be the case if you just use up 25% and the 50% that you just be forgiven that portion, right? And it's also important, and just to actually bring this up as a relevant question, I've seen some small businesses ask in terms of, if you've accessed SEBA, does it impact your ability or prevent you rather from accessing other credit facilities with the bank? Now, at RBC, we do understand that businesses have struggled and some continue to struggle while some continue to boom, like those restaurants that are agile. Vitu gave quite a few examples, or those that had these online facilities from day one. So I just want to say that the myth that if you've accessed CBO, you can't access further credit from the bank, dispel it, right? There is further opportunity. And again, the bank will look at it on a case by case basis. Those are my few additions.
I think they're great. I think, yeah, BDC must do its own assessment, and the CBA one was really helpful, using it. I was under the understanding that most people would have used up their money, but hey, you got to use the money in order to get the forgiveness. But no, thank you, Denton. Denton, are you with one of the banks or BDC?
RBC.
Oh, okay, perfect. We have an RBC person. Perfect. All right, thank you, Denton.
Yes, no problem.
Great. Thank you, Denton. We've got just a few more minutes left. I know a lot of us have another call to jump on at around 11. Maybe if we could field one more question in the next 5 minutes. Does anybody else have something to add or ask of Vithu? Yes, Azar.
Vidhu, nowadays, a lot of parents asking me about the will, right, since this happened, especially from the youth leadership program I'm doing. So are your law office covering this area? Because I think previously people, especially from South Asian side, not focusing. So it's a huge thing I'm hearing nowadays.
Yeah, so at our firm, we actually have a full-time lawyer who deals with this wills, estates litigation. So we start with the basic wills, and then we go into Henson Trust if there's a child with an accessibility issue. We'll go into estate management because writing a will is a good starting point, but you also have to understand what is the goal of the will, especially if your kids are under 18. There's a huge problem if your kids are under 18. You write a simple will because, yeah, you've dealt with the money component, but who's dealing with your kids? Who's going to be the responsible? Who's going to be the person who's going to have custody of your kids? How are they going to afford to have their existing family plus these new 2 additions? How is your will or the trust that comes out of it going to support the development and growth of your kids and their caretaker? And if you do have, let's say, for example, if you have a house and you have a mortgage insurance and something unfortunately happens to both parents, what happens if they're left with an asset for $1 million at 18 years old? Who's going to get into their years? Who's going to start taking in money? How is the child going to be influenced? How will the money deter the child from maybe achieving some of the potential? Because at 18, most of us were not the best with money. So, do we have a gradual plan? So, some of the advice we give is, at 18, we'll release a certain amount. The rest will be invested back into some sort of portfolio. At 21, there'll be another draw, 25, another draw, 30, full out, except for large expenses. For example, schooling could be paid out from the principal. So yeah, we do from anything from a basic will to complex wills, because you might think you don't need a basic one, but if your kids are minors, I would suggest you do something a little bit more than the basic. So at least you have a plan for your kids more than the plan for the money.
That's a really great question, Azar. I mean, as we, as much as this seminar here or event is focused on small businesses, ultimately we're all people with families and friends, and the whole will issue is something that also needs to be looked at, because at the end of the day, what we do is for our family and for our children. So thank you for bringing that up, Azar. That's an excellent point, and it's really good to know that Vithu, that you help not just with this information, but with strategies to help the people and their businesses and what the best avenue for success is, giving them some ideas and some hope in terms of what can be done. So thank you for that.
One more thing I'll just point out, like if you're a small business owner, I highly suggest you don't have one will. That's a recipe for failure later on. If you're a small business owner with a different corporation, you should have a minimum of 2 wills which are active at the same time, at a minimum. And then we can get into that, because not every will do you have to show the government. You don't have to probate every single will. So anything that you show the government, you got to pay taxes on. And so you don't have to pay taxes on your corporation. So there's ways to play around with that because, yeah, kids, money, and then avoiding the tax man is another key part of this.
That's great. Thank you. Vika, maybe we can end just before we end, let everyone know the best way to contact you, and we'll wrap it up from there.
All right. I'm pretty accessible on anything, on everything. I am the worst on my telephone. I'm the first to acknowledge that. I'm horrible with voicemails, but you know, text, WhatsApp, email. I'm in the Connecting GTA group. Call me, and if I don't pick up, throw me a little text, and I promise I'll get back to you. So you can find me. I'm on the internet. I'm on Instagram. You can reach out to me.
Thank you so much. And that's Vithu Ramachandran, everyone. Thank you for your time today, Vithu, and all the wonderful information and for everyone's participation. And thank you to Suresh and Connecting GTA for bringing this event to everyone. Suresh, is there anything else that you would like to say before we wrap up, or we're good?
Thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe. And we are going to go on Instagram Live in 5 minutes. So please join us.
Great. Thanks, everyone.